This morning, Prince Charles returns a positive coronavirus test. The future king laying low as he recovers. But when was his last contact with the Queen? We are live with his condition. The coronavirus emergency, we are waking up to tough new restrictions this morning. Borders shut and elective surgeries cancelled. Police on patrol to enforce fines. The cruise ship blame game. Border Force points the finger at New South Wales Health for the Ruby Princess fiasco.
Live from our Sydney headquarters, this is 7 News.
Good morning. Prince Charles is self-isolating in Scotland after he tested positive to coronavirus. Sarah Greenhalgh joins us live now from Buckingham Palace. Good morning, Sarah. Now, we understand at this stage he is only displaying mild symptoms.
Good morning, Mon. That's what we're being told at this stage. So he first started showing symptoms over the weekend. On Sunday, Prince Charles was tested for COVID-19 on Monday, and late last night those test results came back as positive. As you say, he's now self-isolating for 14 days as per the advice at his estate in Scotland. Camilla has also been tested, but her results have come back negative. So Clarence House released a statement confirming that his symptoms are mild, but otherwise he is in good health. It is not possible to ascertain from whom the Prince caught the virus, owing to the high number of engagements he carried out in his public role during recent weeks. So the 71-year-old had been very careful during all these engagements not to shake people's hands. This, of course, was before social distancing became so mandatory, but he had been at a number of events. So on the 10th of March, he was at a summit sitting opposite Prince Albert of Monaco, who has also subsequently tested positive for coronavirus. And then on the 12th of March, Prince Charles was actually the guest of honour at an Australian bushfire fundraising event at Mansion House here in London, rubbing shoulders with the Australian High Commissioner to the UK, George Brandis. Australia House has also released a statement saying Mr Brandis, like all staff at Australia House, is following the guidance of the UK government. He has no symptoms, and all of us here wish His Royal Highness a speedy recovery. Now, Mon, as you say, the big question is, when did Prince Charles have contact with the Queen? Well, we are told that that was on that same day, March 12. Doctors say, given his symptoms only appeared over the weekend, the earliest he would have been contagious was the 13th of March, so 24 hours after he was with his mother. She, of course, is 93 years of age. Buckingham Palace has been asked directly today whether or not she has been tested. They won't say that. They will only tell us that she is said to be in good health, and she and Prince Philip are both at Windsor Castle following all necessary precautions and advice. Mon?
All right, Sarah, thank you. Tough new restrictions are now in place across the country as coronavirus continues its rapid and deadly spread. At midnight, thousands more businesses were forced to close their doors, leaving many more unemployed. Amusement parks, swimming pools, libraries and beauty parlours have all had to shut up shop, while Australians are now banned from travelling overseas. In New South Wales, new penalties have come into force overnight for those caught breaking social distancing and self-isolation rules. Police are warning breaches could lead to fines and jail time. Strict coronavirus testing criteria has been broadened after another meeting of National Cabinet overnight. Political reporter Olivia Leeming is in Canberra for us. Olivia, what does this mean?
Well, until now, only Australians who meet certain criteria have in fact been allowed to even take a test for coronavirus, even if they've been showing symptoms, because there simply aren't enough testing kits to go around. But now the Prime Minister, after meeting with the states at the latest National Cabinet meeting overnight, they have broadened those criteria. So no longer does it have to only be someone who's been in contact with a confirmed case or overseas, but anyone who's showing symptoms, who is a healthcare or aged care worker or lives in an area where there's been a surge in cases of community transmissions, as well those in jails, boarding schools and military bases with live-in accommodation, and patients already in hospital with a fever and acute respiratory symptoms at their doctor's discretion. Now, the National Cabinet also agreeing last night to extend that deadline for elective surgery in private hospitals. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced almost all elective surgery except for the most urgent cases will be suspended. The deadline, though, has now been moved to the 1st of April for those semi-urgent cases. Also last night, they discussed rent relief for Australian tenants who are facing hardship. but those measures still yet to be finalised. And as well, after introducing tough new restrictions earlier this week, forcing many businesses to close as part of stage 2 of this crackdown, they did discuss planning for exactly what stage 3 might involve, but we're still not at that point yet, Mon.
All right, Olivia, thank you for the update. A cruise ship passenger from Queensland has become Australia's 9th coronavirus death. The 68-year-old from Toowoomba was infected while on board a Royal Caribbean cruise that docked in Sydney last week. Queensland Health says he had a serious underlying medical condition before contracting the virus. His wife is currently in self-isolation along with all of his immediate family. It comes as Border Force rejects any blame for letting passengers off the Ruby Princess ship that also docked in Sydney. More than 130 people from that ship now have coronavirus. Queensland has officially shut its border to try and curb the spread of coronavirus. Motorists have been warned to expect significant delays if attempting to cross from New South Wales as police conduct RBT-style checks. Residents in the south will be able to apply for an exemption to the closure if they have a legitimate reason to move between states. Others crossing will have to prove that they can self-isolate for 14 days. The shutdown could last for many months. Thousands more Australians are expected to seek financial assistance from Centrelink today after 1,400 Rivers, Katie's and Noni B clothing stores shut down. 7,000 workers are now out of work because of the closures as coronavirus further cripples our economy. Yesterday, more than 200,000 people registered for assistance online in just a few hours after Centrelink introduced a new function. Police are now being told to go to the MyGov website and click on Intention to Claim. You should receive a phone call within 2 days. Payments will be backdated to Monday. Well, some welcome news now for many New South Wales families. Supermarkets and pharmacies across the state have been given the green light to open right around the clock. It will mean 24/7 access to food and medical supplies for the near future. And to overseas news now, President Trump wants America open for business by Easter, planning to ease restrictions in clear defiance of medical experts, worried state leaders and the rest of the world. New York is warning the virus is spreading like a bullet train as the World Health Organization predicts the US could become the new global epicentre.
Hoping for an economic resurrection.
I'd love to have it open by Easter.
Donald Trump gives America 19 days to weather the COVID-19 crisis.
We have to get our country back to work.
The president planning to ease stay-at-home guidelines by April 12, despite experts maintaining they're the best weapon to slow the spread.
I'm sure that we have doctors that would say, let's keep it closed for 2 years. OK, let's close it up for 2 years. No.
Insisting hotspots can be closely monitored while those in less affected areas can get back to work.
We want to start up as soon as we can.
Wall Street got a head start. Stocks soaring as the Senate made headway on a stimulus package.
We begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That light at the end of the tunnel could be a train coming at us if people are out and about in a way that it spreads the disease further.
Even if Donald Trump does wind back federal restrictions, it's likely hotspot states like New York, Washington and California will go it alone, urging its residents to stay indoors for weeks or even months.
We're not going to put a dollar figure on human life.
New York's cases are now doubling every 3 days. Those fleeing the state told to quarantine as the military rushes to build field hospitals and the governor begs for 30,000 more ventilators.
You picked the 26,000 people who are going to die because you only sent 400 ventilators.
In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Spain now has the world's second highest tally of coronavirus deaths after recording its deadliest toll in one day. 738 people died in the past 24 hours, taking Spain's death toll to 3,434, which surpasses China. Italy still has the most deaths of any nation in the world, and in Belgium, 434 people have been admitted to hospital with COVID-19, an increase of 50% on the previous day. New Zealand has entered an unprecedented lockdown overnight. All non-essential businesses are now closed, all schools shut, and everyone must stay at home. The only exceptions are for those exercising alone or taking their dog for a walk, as well as people visiting essential services. Supermarkets will stay open throughout the 4-week lockdown and they'll continue to be restocked. The nation's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, is asking citizens to act like they already have COVID-19. An unlikely ally has joined the fight against coronavirus by supplying hospitals with much-needed hand sanitizer. The pandemic and resulting panic-buying frenzy has resulted in a shortage, so doctors have turned to distilleries to increase supply.
From making gin to supplying our frontline health services, Poor Tom's, a distillery at Marrickville in Sydney's inner west, has become an unlikely ally in the fight against COVID-19.
We'd rather be making gin, but we were approached by a neighbour who's a chest physician out of Prince of Wales Hospital, who asked us just initially to supply his clinic.
But the demand is for a very different kind of alcohol.
We've since sort of switched almost all of our resources over to making hand sanitizer.
An essential product which has become a rare commodity due to the coronavirus pandemic.
We've got a community of doctors that are ordering directly through our sales channel, like we used to sell gin.
And they can hardly make it quickly enough. 2,000 litres of the World Health Organisation approved product has already been supplied to Sydney hospitals.
For us, the priority is supporting the community that's supporting the rest of Australia. We are selling it at just above cost, enough to keep our bar staff and our full-time staff in business and turning up for work and having a sense of purpose.
Something increasingly important as we see more and more Australians out of work. Christian Gaubset, 7 News.
Next on 7 Early News, a race to save him. That was the driving bail application for Julian Assange, who is now at extreme risk of coronavirus in prison. And social distancing, what is it and why is it so important? That's next. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been denied bail by a London court. Lawyers for the 48-year-old, who is fighting extradition from Britain to the US, argued he should be released from prison because of the coronavirus outbreak. Assange is wanted by the US on 18 criminal counts of conspiring to hack government computers and violating espionage law. The charges carry a total of 175 years imprisonment. China's Hubei province, where the pandemic originated, has lifted travel restrictions on people leaving the region. Hubei's capital, Wuhan, has been in total lockdown since January 23. Today, the city's supermarkets reopened. Shoppers have to show their health code on their mobile phones and have their temperature checked before being allowed in. Wuhan's travel restrictions will be lifted on April 8th. A suspected tornado has hit Mississippi as a severe storm system crossing the southern United States. Local authorities reported a few people suffered minor injuries. Damage was also reported in the neighbouring state of Alabama. Well, checking finance news now, and the Dow Jones surged on news of the stimulus deal, up by more than 1,000 points. The Nasdaq also rose. In London, the FT 100 is up and Germany's DAX also gained. Closer to home, Japan's Nikkei gained more than 8%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose. The All Ords also closed in positive territory and the ASX 200 put on more than 5%. On the commodities market now, and gold is trading at $1,634 an ounce. Oil is at $24 a barrel. The Aussie dollar is buying 59.6 US cents, 66 Japanese yen and $1.02 New Zealand. Well, social distancing is now a crucial term central to the fight against this virus, not just here in Australia, but right around the world. So what does it really mean and how can it stop the COVID-19 spread? 7's Melissa Doyle explains.
In March 2003, the World Health Organisation declared a global pandemic. A deadly new virus had appeared in southern China and was quickly spreading. Nearby nations imposed strict quarantine measures, stopping it in its tracks. The virus was SARS, and health authorities breathed a sigh of relief. They had managed to avoid a global catastrophe. So how did we manage to defeat SARS but seem to be losing the fight against COVID-19? The difference is in how the viruses behave. Once infected, people with SARS were rarely contagious until after they showed symptoms. COVID-19 is very different. Once infected, you are contagious almost immediately, meaning you can feel fine but end up infecting 2 to 3 people. Those people you infected each go on to infect 2 to 3 others, and that is how the virus spreads. Here is where social distancing comes in. Imagine this person didn't go out for lunch. These ones worked from home. And this person didn't visit their mum. By staying at home, the total number of cases is dramatically reduced, and so is the pressure on our doctors and nurses. The ones left can be treated and hopefully saved. And this is why, when faced with a global pandemic, social distancing can make the difference between life and death. So the advice from doctors: assume you have it, and that will help you keep your distance.
Melissa Doyle there. But next on 7 Early News, more cuts made at NRL clubs as they fight to survive their financial crisis. And as the world goes into lockdown, AFL players set up home gyms to keep fit in the hope that their season will resume later this year. Parramatta coach Brad Arthur is the latest NRL coach to be stood down as clubs look to cut costs amid the coronavirus pandemic. The NRL has begun talks with the Players Association about the prospect of pay cuts to ease the stress. But it's not just the elite level fighting to survive.
We mightn't have junior football next year. We mightn't have flag. We mightn't have Canterbury Cup. We've got to look at all those things now.
The Cowboys have stood down more than 50 staff members, including coach Paul Green, while the Broncos, the NRL's richest team, have admitted even they are in a fight for survival. Boss Paul Wright and coach Anthony Seibold have taken 6-figure pay cuts. The AFL and its players are at a war over a pay dispute, with the league asking the players to take a 79% pay cut, while the players are only prepared to take a 50% cut. As the world goes into lockdown, players are setting up makeshift home gyms to keep themselves fit.
I can't even tell you how it feels. It's completely different to anything I've experienced before.
North Melbourne captain Jack Ziebell is at his parents' place in Wodonga trying to rehab an 8-week knee injury. Ziebell will contact his physio via FaceTime and, given the season suspension, might not miss a game. Australian athletes and officials have welcomed the announcement that the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics will be postponed until next year. Organisers and Japan's government agreed the global pandemic made it impossible to stage the Games 4 months from now.
Tokyo 2020 is now Tokyo 2021. A phone call from the most senior power broker in the Olympic movement and the Japan Prime Minister sealed the decision.
We are facing an unprecedented challenge. This postponement is the first ever postponement of Olympic Games.
I got an answer from President Bach that he agreed 100%.
It comes days after a number of countries, including Australia, told the International Olympic Committee a Games in 2020 was simply not possible.
There are some tough times ahead for all of us. There are times we're going to have to show that Olympic quality of resilience.
The one thing that I think has been killing all of us, athletes, staff, coaches alike, has been the uncertainties.
The Australian Olympic Committee is confident the 60% of our team that are qualified for Tokyo in 4 months won't have to go through the same process again next year. For a lot of our athletes, it's now a case of resetting for another 12 months of training, but most right now are in lockdown. Disappointment, 4 years of training and setting themselves for July and August are now gone. But also a sense of relief their welfare was put first.
And a lot of athletes will be hurting at the moment, but I think everyone in every industry is affected, and it's about overcoming this together.
The health of all these people remain the top priority.
Jim Wilson, 7 News.
Adelaide Thunderbirds international Layla Guscloth, a registered GP, has travelled home to England to help fight the coronavirus crisis. The Super Netball season was put on hold until at least June 30.
And Layla, obviously being a doctor, she wants to help, and she'll be looking to go back and work within the hospital that she had been working at. She wants to go and help and do what she can in that field.
Gus Clough isn't the only athlete returning to the healthcare frontline. Hockeyroos goalkeeper Rachel Lynch, a registered nurse, will be helping out at a hospital in Perth. Next on 7 Early News, a closer look at how the weather is shaping up in your part of the country. California's San Diego Zoo may be closed due to the coronavirus, but these pictures show its newest inhabitant continues to thrive. This baby hippo, which was born in February, appears to be right at home in her habitat, which she shares with her mum. The hippo is called a mache, which means beautiful one in Zulu. Zookeepers say the tot is active and healthy, although it doesn't look very active there. Taking a look at the weather around the country now. Clearer and cooler conditions forecast for Tasmania, Victoria and South Australia today. Deep onshore winds will continue to bring showers to East Queensland and New South Wales. A trough deepening over WA will extend south as a front approaches. Dry over the interior with a ridge. Around the capital cities now, a possible shower developing in Brisbane, a shower or two in Sydney, partly cloudy in Canberra and 21. Becoming sunny in Melbourne, sunny in Hobart with a top of 18. Mostly sunny in Adelaide today, a partly cloudy one in Perth, and a shower or two and a possible storm in Darwin. And that is 7 Early